Hello everyone and welcome back. So in my previous video, we already learned how to upload file, which is image and video, and also how to delete that file on UploadThing using Next.js, right? As you can see, this is the file and also this is the data. If I delete the image right here, click OK, of course, it should be delete the data, the image from the UploadThing. If I refresh that, the image should be gone, as you can see, and also the data here, it should be gone as well. So we already covered that on previous video. Now we are going to adding authentication, which is user login can upload file, but user not login cannot upload any file, right? So that's what we are going to do in this video. First, you have to clone that project. This is the code. I'm going to put a link on the description. Just make sure you clone that code and everything should be works. You have to adding this environment variable, the UploadThing token, and also the database URL. In this case, I'm just using my PostgreSQL on my local. Great. So how to install and configure the better out? Basically, I already have this blog on Medium. You can just click link on the description and just follow along this tutorial, right? This is pretty simple. So first we have to install the better out. I'm going to copy that command and then go back here. Let's try to install it. So I'm going to run npm install a better out. All right, it's done. So now let's go back here. And the next thing is we need to add this environment variable. I'm going to copy everything here and then go back to my VS Code in environment variable here. And I'm going to paste that, right? Because we're going to use GitHub. Of course, we need to have this client ID and client secret from the GitHub. So let's try to see how we can generate the better out secret. This is basically just a random number. So on the documentation of better out, basically we can generate the secret with this button. And now I can just copy that, go back to VS Code, and then just paste that right here, right? Just that's it. So how we get the GitHub client ID and GitHub client secret? It's pretty easy. So you can just go to the GitHub, right? GitHub settings, developer settings, and etc. So I'm going to open my GitHub. Just open your GitHub profile and then click right here on the icon, go to the settings, and then here you can just go to the developer settings and then go through the OAuth apps, right? And in here you can just add new OAuth app. I'm going to click that. And then here just give any name you want. For example, upload file app, right? Just whatever name you want. The homepage URL in this case is localhost 3000. I'm going to copy this one and then paste that right here. And then the authorization callback URL, it should be this one right here. So I'm going to copy that, right? And then just paste that right here and then click register application. Great. So now you have to see this client ID, right? Just copy the client ID, go back to your VS Code, just paste that right here. And then for the client secret, you have to generate a new client secret right here, right in this button. Just click that. And here you have to verify or log in. You have to use your password anyway. All right, so as you can see now, I'm successfully generate the client secret. This is my client secret. I just click that copy icon and then go back to environment variable, just paste that right here. And we done, right, for the all environment variables. So now let's go back to the blog in here. And then the next thing is we need to initialize or install the Prisma. So I'm going to copy this npm install Prisma, right, as a dev dependency. And then after that, we have to initialize that Prisma. So npx Prisma init. Here we go. So this basically will generate this Prisma folder and then the schema, etc. Oh, anyway, my bad. I already have Prisma anyway on this project, right? As you can see, this schema right here, we already have Prisma anyway. So as you can see in here on the lib, we already have that Prisma. So I think we have to just skip that step. So next thing is we need to create the auth.ts on the lib folder. So let's go to lib folder, create that file, auth.ts file, and then just copy everything in here. Anyway, you can just find all of these on the documentation of better out, but I make it super simple to just putting that on this Medium blog. Anyway, we have this better out, and then as you can see, the database is Prisma adapter. Prisma come from this file right here, and the provider I'm using is PostgreSQL. Just make sure your Prisma is also PostgreSQL, right? And then here, my social provider is just GitHub. This is the client ID and this is the client secret. That's it. Next thing is we have to generate the schema Prisma, right? And I'm gonna go back in here. As you can see, this is the schema. For now we just have an upload. So now we have to create schema that require for better out. So the way we doing that is we are going to use this npx better out CLI generate. So this command is basically can generate the require field that we want on the schema.prisma. So let's try to hit enter. And as you can see, magic will be happen. I'm going to make it small and then click yes. As you can see, we have this warning that say this will be override the schema.prisma file. So I'm going to do yes in this case. So as you can see, now we have this user, right? User model, session model, and account and verification. So this is the model that require for better out. And also we are going to add a user on this model upload basically. So in this upload, I'm going to paste this user ID, all right? User ID is basically string, and then it should be have connection in this user table, right? As you can see, user, this one right here, relation field, user ID, the reference ID on delete cascade, and that's it. And also this should be automatically adding this upload right here, right? Just make sure you have that upload on the user. Right after everything is done, so now we have to run. Let's go back on the block in here. We have to run npx prisma generate, right? So let's just copy that and then paste that in here. And then next thing is we have to run npx prisma db push. Here we go. And of course, now we can just run again the npx prisma studio. Here we go. It should be open the localhost 5555, and as you can see, now we have the account, we have session, upload, user, and verification. Super nice. Everything is set up. Let's go back to this better out or my block, right? Go back to my block. And then next thing is we have to create API route handler. So let's just copy this one right here, right? I'm going to copy that, go to app API, and then here I'm going to create folder called auth/all and then road.ts file. So what we have to do here, just copy everything, paste that like this. Also, the next thing we have to create the auth-client.ts file. Let's go back to lib folder, and then here I'm gonna create the auth-client.ts file, right? And just copy everything in here, paste that. So this basically export the sign in, sign up, use session, and sign out. So we can use all this function to make user sign in, to make user sign up, to get the session, to sign out the user, right? Pretty simple. And of course, because we're using next public better out URL, we have to also adding this on the environment variables. Let's go back to environment variables and then just paste that like this, right? Cool. So the next thing is, I think we're done. Let's try to see here how that we can log in, right? I'm going to close everything. And now we have to run the app, npm run dev. And then now I'm going to open my page.tsx right here, which is the home component. Now let's try to create the button to log in. So first I'm going to show you how that we can get the session. Here I'm going to paste this code right here, right? It's basically grab the data from the use session. So the use session is basically hook that we export on the lib right here, right? Use session right here. So using that on the page.tsx. So now if I console log that session, right? Now we should have like a null or undefined, right? So let's take a look on the console here. We have null because now there's no user that log in. Pretty cool. Here I'm going to add a condition first. If user not login, I'm going to show the login button. So under the heading 1, I'm going to put this condition. If we have session, I'm going to render this. If not, I'm going to render this one. So for the session true, I'm going to just render a logout button basically. So I'm going to copy this div right here, right? As you can see, this div is just pretty simple. We have this image. This image is basically render the session.user.image, right? This is the image from the GitHub basically. and we render the session.user.name. And then in here, we're running the logout, right? So just import the logout from the libout client right here. And now if user not sign in, right? So that means we don't have any session. I'm going to show the button to log in. So I'm going to paste that right here. As you can see now, we have this button that have login with GitHub text. And as you can see, if I click this button, it's basically will running the sign in, right? Sign in come from the lib/out client. As you can see, it's running .social, and then I using provider GitHub, and then the callback URL is /, right? Just that's it. And as you can see on this image right here, image tag, we have this warning. It's a using image tag could result in slower LCP and higher bandwidth. So anyway, you can fix this using image, right? Using image come from the next image, and as you can see, the error should be gone. The image should become from the next/image package. That's it. Everything should be fine right now. So let's take a look the result. As you can see, we have this button login with GitHub, right? So if I click that, what happened? As you can see, it basically will redirect me to this GitHub login, and I can just click authorize my name in here, and as you can see, it should be make me log in. But as you can see, we have this error. It's just because we don't put the width property on the image component. So that's basically require. So I'm going to put this width and height to 32. So now let's try to go back. And then as you can see, for refresh, it should be clean. Hopefully. We still get an error because the host name right here, we have to put this host name right here on the, I believe on the next config.ts file, right? So I'm going to copy this one and then paste that. So let's try to put the host name right here, right? avatar.githubsusercontent.com. So let's refresh that. Now, hopefully we see the image and then the name data. As you can see here, we have the icon, which is my image, and then my name right here, right? That's pretty cool. We successfully log in right now. And then also we have this log out button. That's super nice. So now let's try to log out. I hope the functionality is working because as you can see in here, we're already doing that. When we log out, we're running the sign out function. The sign outs come from the libout client, right? Let's take a look. If I click log out, hopefully this is working. And now as you can see, it's null, right? The session is null because we console log that value in here. Cool. So that's working. Now let's try to add like a UI things right here. If user not login, just put like a you have to log in if you want to upload file, something like that. So I'm gonna paste that right here. As you can see, if there's no session, just render this div right here. Let's take a look. Please log in to upload file, right? Simple as that. And now in this div that have this get root props function, I'm going to remove this cursor pointer, right? I'm going to remove that. And then I'm going to put this condition right here. If there's no session, I'm going to make sure that the cursor should be not allowed. And then if it's drag active, I'm going to use this cursor pointer, and else also I'm going to use cursor pointer. As you can see, the color is changed, right? The color is different. So let's take a look here. I'm going to go to this area, and as you can see, the cursor is not allowed cursor, right? That's what I want. But the problem is, as you can see, if I click this, it still can upload file, right? So that's the problem. So let's go back in here. We have to make sure that we cannot upload file if I'm not logged in. So we have to go to the use Dropzone, and then in here, I'm going to put disable. So this should be disabled if there is no session, right? Just put the session like this. And now let's try to click that. And as you can see, it's not gonna be works, right? That's what we want because user not login right now. There's no reason user can upload file. And also I'm going to change the text right here on the preview, right? If the preview is false, I'm going to make sure I'm using this one right here, this condition. If the session have a value, drag and drop or click to select file. If session null, using this login to upload file. As you can see, now we have login to upload file. And also this button upload, it should be show if user login, right? So I'm going to put this session like this. Let me see, session, and then add this condition. So this basically will show if user have a session or if user login. So let's take a look what happened if I click the upload button. So when I click that, it should be running the start upload function, and that function should come from the use UploadThings hooks, right? So let's take a look on the API slash uploadthings slash core.ts file, and this basically any upload happen, right? As you can see, I'm running the media uploader. This is the image and this is the video. We have the maximal file size as well in here. And as you can see, we have this error here. The reason is because we not put the, let me see in here, property user is missing, right? So we have to put a user in here because we already update the upload table on the Prisma schema right here, right? We already update that we have a user right now, and this is basically required. So that's why we have to put user as well in this data in here. So anyway, we can get the user ID from the metadata. So I'm going to put the user ID is equals to metadata.user ID. So the metadata, it should be come from this one right here. I'm going to paste that, right? We can grab the metadata and then the file. But as you can see, we have this error here because metadata is possibly undefined. So the way we're fixing that is because we're using authentication, of course, in here we have to put the middleware, right? Before we start upload, we have to put middleware. So we need to check if user login or not. So here I'm going to say .middleware like that, right? This is basically async function. So I'm going to put async. And then I'm going to grab the request in here like this. So this function, I'm going to put that like this for now. So this middleware, it should be returning promise. I'm going to put this promise metadata. So I'm going to create the type of metadata on the top right here, right? This basically just user ID should be string, just that's it. And then inside the middleware, what I have to do is first, I'm going to grab the session. So I'm going to say const session set equals to wait for the auth.api.get session. So this is basically the way we get the session on the server side, right? On the client side, we can just grab that using this use session hooks. But on the server side, which is on the core.ts file right here, we can use the auth, right? Auth basically come from the lib/auth, and then we can grab the api.get session and then put the headers. The headers should become from the request right here, .headers, right? And then in here, we can check if there's no session. If there's no session, what I'm going to do is just throw new error. And then I'm going to put this unauthorized. And then finally here, I'm going to return the user ID. User ID. So this user ID should be using right here on the metadata. So whatever you return in here, it should be using that on the metadata down here. So I'm going to use user ID is equals to session.user.id. Okay, so now we have that user ID on metadata. Super cool. Everything should be nice. As you can see, this basically will adding that data on the Prisma, right? That's why we're running Prisma.upload in here. So now let's try to upload the file. So here I'm gonna go back, and then as you can see, if I'm not logged in, let's try to refresh just to make sure everything should be clean. I'm going to drag and drop this image. As you can see, it's not gonna be allow us to upload that file. As you can see, this basically just open that file. So anyway, I have to log in. So I'm going to click the login with GitHub and then just click the authorize, I believe, or this should be automatically make me log in because I already authorized that. Now I'm going to drag and drop this image here. I'm going to drop that. Now, as you can see, we have this preview and I'm going to click upload, right? So let's take a look what happened here. I hope the image, it should be rendered down here on the uploaded file. So as you can see, the image is just rendered down here. The things that I'm going to adding on this card image is basically the user information. So let's first go back to the network. All right, I just want to see what happened if I fetch the data. As you can see in here, we have the ID, name, URL, and then etc. We have the user ID, right? But I like to put also the username in here. So the user information that upload this image. So that's why I'm going to go to the upload.ts file. And then in here, I also want to include another response. So I'm going to paste that right here. As you can see, I'm going to include the user. I'm going to select the name and the image. It should be rendered as well on the response. So now let's try to refresh that. And then let's take a look right here on the uploads. As you can see, now we have the user, and then we have the name, and then we have the image, right? That's what I want. So now I can just render the name on this card. But make sure I'm going to update the type on the top right here, I believe, right? The type of upload. So I'm going to add this user ID and also the user that have name and also that have image. So now let's scroll down and where is that? This one right here, right on the PN button. I'm going to remove that. And anyway, I'm going to render this div right here. As you can see, this div that have display flags, etc. We have also this the file name and also the username, right? And in here, I check basically if the session.user.id match with the u.user.id, right? It should be show the delete button. So that means if I'm not upload that image, it should be not show the delete button. So in this case, because this is come from me, I can delete that image, right? Pretty nice. So let's take a look what happened if I click delete. It should be run the handle delete function. Let's take a look what happened. It should be running the API /upload/ID, right? So let's take a look on that API. So the thing that I'm going to add in this delete function in here is basically the session right here, right? I'm going to get the session on the server. That's why I'm going to use this auth, right? Auth.api.get session and then headers request.headers. And then here, if there's no session, that means if user not login, just return this error right here, unauthorized, and the status is 401. Great. So now let's take a look. I'm going to delete this image, for example. Let's try to delete that, and hopefully this is successful because I'm the man that upload this image. As you can see, it's gone, right? That's working. If I go to upload things right now, oh, it should be, of course, empty, right? My bad, I'm not showing you when I upload that file. But anyway, this is working. Alright, so I think that's it guys for this video. I'm sorry if I too fast explain things on authentication in here, just to make sure you not waste your time by watching this tutorial. And then I'm gonna put all the link on the description so you can just learn with your own, right? So thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one.